It's time now for the Wednesday Night Coaches Corner on KORN News Radio, FM 1013, AM 1490, and online at KORNradio.com. The Wednesday Night Coaches Corner live from the Freight House Room of the Depot is brought to you by the Mitchell Rec Center and by the Depot. Now to the Freight House Room of the Depot for the Wednesday Night Coaches Corner. Here are your hosts, Travis Krins and KORN Sports Director, Steve Morgan.
Well, good evening. Welcome to the Wednesday Night Coaches Corner show on KORN News Radio. Of course, online only today due to SDSU women's basketball tonight right here on KORN News Radio. We're going to talk to a couple of special guests today for, in fact, kind of Kimball White Lake night tonight. We're going to talk to Casey Dykstra on the girls' side, but let's talk first to Camden Miller of Kimball White Lake Wildcat boys basketball. And, Coach, thanks for joining us here tonight.
Hey, you're welcome.
5-2. Let's a little flashback to last night at Sanborn Central. Woonsocket had an early lead. It kind of looks like maybe the game got away from you, from the Wildcats a little bit last night.
Yeah, let me tell you, it was a great atmosphere. They had that place packed, and for both the girls and the boys game, it was a fun game, and it was loud. And yeah, we got off to a great start. They made some adjustments at halftime, and we kind of ran out of gas, and we couldn't get the ball in the hole in the fourth quarter. But give all the credit to them. They really made the shots when they needed.
Let's talk about your team a little bit. The roster, you got a handful of seniors. Talk about the personnel that makes up your Kimball White Lake boys basketball team.
Sure, Steve. We have three main seniors that play a lot. Carter Fredrickson, he's our point guard. He's a 2-year starter, and he plays the floor well. Great defender. He's been asked to be a bit more of a scoring leader this year. And then we have Javen Holan. He's an off guard. Has really developed. He's been starting for 3 years. And he's got a great all-around game, shoots well from the outside, or has, and has worked into the penetrating and getting to the basket better this year. And then Cordell Keene is a senior from Kimball, and he's only played basketball for 2 years, came out as a sophomore. And started learning the game. He's still learning the game. He's a raw talent, but man, he's really come along. He's 6'6", and he's averaging a double-double. So he's really been a great addition to our team. And then we've got a couple juniors. Justin Becker he's 6'7", and he's kind of helped us put together a inside game. Rebounds well. Tough to teach that size, but he's moving around really well. He runs the floor excellent. And then Cordell's brother Rafe is also a junior, and he works just his tail off. He's got a great motor out there and gets a lot of hustle plays and points.
So you got a good little mixture, and you had some good size too for a Class B team. 6'6", 6'7". That's not too bad.
Yeah, it's kind of rare, and but we've come up against like Hanson, and they matched us inch for inch. And Highmore Herald the same way. So although it might seem like it's rare, on our schedule it seems like it's the norm.
Yeah, it's becoming the norm. Absolutely. Now, Coach Camden Miller joins us with Kimball White Lake. Was it tough early with the football team going so deep in the state championship? Sometimes they come into basketball banged up in the early part of that basketball season.
Absolutely. Yeah, that happens to everybody. It's a good problem to have. I think those kids deserve that recognition, and they certainly earned the right to be in that football dome game. But yeah, I think Cordell had some issues with his shoulder and his ankle. Rafe had a thigh bruise, and there's a lot of kids that have injuries that don't say anything also. Our quarterback Javen he's had a shoulder issue, and he's still dealing with that. So it's part of the game. It's part of one of our big goals and such to talk about this year was obstacles we have to overcome, and injuries is definitely one of those.
Absolutely, indeed. Let's talk new gym in White Lake. Nice facility for you.
Oh, it's fun. We got to open it up the other day against Trip Delmont Armor. A nice, highly contested game. It's nice and bright in there. It's a long time coming. We feel fortunate we were able to bring out or take out the old gym with a win and bring in the new gym with a win.
Well, Friday night, it's the Q1073 game of the week. You host Corsica Stickney. They're 6-0 overall. You know how good they are. They're a region opponent. I mean, it's a big game Friday night.
Yeah, they're the class act of our Region 6 and they're a dynasty. You know, they're every year in and out. Mike does such a great job with those guys, and they're always competing for every second they get on the court. You know, even when they sub in guys at the end of games, it's full court pressure. It's nonstop. It's a basketball factory over there. But we had a good game with them last year, and we're really looking forward to it. I think we can compete with just about everybody on our schedule, and they're certainly one that we'd love to. Our goal is always to have a chance in that fourth quarter, and if we can, you know, run with them and hang with them and deal with the pressure, not turn the ball over, it could be a fun night for us too.
Well, Coach Tushin's been around for a long time. I think he might have been coaching back when you and I were still playing back in the day.
Yeah, I think that was when he started.
Yeah, so he's been around for a while, and of course, getting those milestones as well as you get up there as well. Let's talk about your busy schedule, because I think looking at your schedule, you're kind of in the middle of 5 games in 12 days, kind of a busy little stretch here right now.
Yeah, I think a lot of teams get in that situation. We didn't have a game over the holiday, which we normally do, so we had to put one in and add one. It worked out really good that we've got Canton. We're able to get Canton in the Corn Palace. You know, we don't play in the Corn Palace much anymore because the tournament has been moved, or we have a different format. And so our kids really like doing that. So we've been trying to find ways to get in there anyway. And I had such a great experience in that gym, and I think the kids look forward to going and playing there too.
Yeah, besides Corsica Stickney on Friday, as you mentioned, the Corn Palace, you take on Canton there as well. And I think you did have one earlier this year against Freeman. Is that right?
Yeah, we did. And then just to stick with your point, we have next week we also have Gregory and Colombe, and
wow,
just as good as Corsica is, I think Colombe's right there with them.
We are talking with head coach of Kimball White Lake Wildcats, Camden Miller, with us. First of all, Coach, how many years you been a head coach?
I think this is number 18 here in Kimball.
Oh. You're starting to get up there too, you know, with a lot of wins and a lot of experience as well. You're still loving it, I'm guessing.
I didn't hear you. What'd you say?
You're still loving it, I'm guessing.
Oh yeah, it's fun. You might not get this answer from a lot of coaches, but I like the practice. I like the teaching of the game. I like that part of it. That's where I do most of my coaching. If we're not prepared, there's not a lot I can do when we get into the game. So that's the part I really enjoy. Otherwise, the older I get, the more nervous I get for everything that's all the game day stuff. And there seems to be like more paperwork and all kinds of other stuff that goes along with it. But just once you get on the court, that passion never goes away. Well,
hopefully some guys and other personnel to help you out as well. Talk about some of your assistant coaches that help you out for Kimball and White Lake.
Yeah, they breathed a whole new bit of life into me and our program when Coach Dare Evans, came to us about 4 years ago, and he's just full of energy, bringing new ideas. He was originally a West River player, so we had a little bit different style at times too, and just always bringing new ideas to us and watching film and helping us prepare. And he's done a good job with our JV team. I think they're 3-2 now, and then we also have our junior high coach, Wesley Kropa. He's from Kimball and been through the program, so he knows what I'm looking for, and he's getting those junior high kids on pace, so there's not a lot of new teaching that has to be done when they get up into the high school.
Well, Coach, good luck the rest of the way. Good luck Friday night in your big game at White Lake against Corsica Stickney, and thanks for your time here tonight.
You're welcome.
We'll take a timeout. That was Camden Miller from Kimball White Lake Wildcat Boys Basketball. We're back with more coaches next, including Tacey Dykstra as well from Kimball White Lake Girls Basketball, all coming up on the Wednesday night Coach's Corner, online only at KORNradio.com.
The Depot is well known in Mitchell and our area for great food, family-friendly atmosphere, and terrific service. The Depot offers an extensive menu that will satisfy anyone's taste buds. Gourmet burgers, great steaks, mouth-watering seafood and pasta, and the best homemade soups and desserts in town. For a night out, make plans for lunch or dinner at The Depot. The Depot, located in the heart of downtown Mitchell.
The Depot. The whistle stop for fun. This is Thomas with the Mitchell Rec Center, and if you haven't seen us lately, you're missing out. The Rec Center offers 2 indoor pools, 2 basketball courts, a racquetball court, a weight room, cardio room, and an additional 3,500 square feet of fitness space. So when you're thinking about your 2019 fitness goals, rethink the Rec and come back home where it all began. Stop by the Rec and take a tour. We're located at 1300 North Main Street in Mitchell. Family, fitness, fun.
You're listening to the Wednesday Night Coaches Corner with Steve and Travis on KORN News Radio, FM 101.3, AM 1490, and online at KORNradio.com. This is Coach Carpenter. Now back to the show.
It is the Wednesday Night Coaches Show here live from the Freight House room of the Depot. Online tonight to SDSU basketball on KORN. Pregame show going on right now. Just got done with Camden Miller, Kimball White Lake boys basketball. Travis Carpenter is up next. Talk some Mitchell wrestling. Also at Neuendorf and West Morgan from Mitchell basketball. And also we have Tacey Dykstra, Kimball White Lake girls basketball coach. She'll be joining us here at the end of the program tonight at around 7:15. Thanks for joining us here online only on KORNradio.com. Mitchell Wrestling, Travis Carpenter is here. You were at the Clash in Rochester, Minnesota. Been a few years since you'd been there. How was the experience?
It's a great experience. You know, it's one of those things where you're going to wrestle a bunch of teams that you'll never see again, with the exception of East Ridge, Minnesota, which is coming to our tournament this weekend, which is we didn't end up seeing them, but we saw some teams that saw them, and they got some common opponents, and we got some common opponents. But what a great experience. We ended up going 1-5. Obviously, that's not the way we wanted to do things, and we ended up having to sit a couple of kids out here and there for some injuries and some dings and some bumps and some bruises.
Close losses in there.
Yeah, I mean, there were 5 of the duels that we wrestled where we were a match or 2 away from winning the duel, and we definitely had a match or 2 in there that we could have won. So, you know, we could have easily been with the schedule that we had. We could have easily been 3-3, 4-2, but we ended up 1-5. You know, that's the way things work, and I think it was a great experience for our kids and that type of stuff. You know, you go back to before Christmas. But the last time we talked, we had the Aberdeen duel, and we went up to Aberdeen and won a duel there. So the kids have gotten 7 matches in since the last time we talked, and they've gained a lot of experience and a lot of knowledge in that particular time.
Competition there, AA type schools, AAA type schools from Minnesota. How was the competition as far as the size of the schools?
Obviously really well. Early on, if the way the tournament works is you're put into pools of 8. And if you win first round, you're in the top 16 of the tournament because there's 4 pools of 8. And then you'd obviously, however you do, you get put in a pool. So there's a first place pool, a second place pool. And we ended up in the 8th place pool. And, if we have, for instance, Sutton didn't get to wrestle on Saturday and Kyler didn't get to wrestle on Saturday. If we have those 2 kids, I believe we go 3-0 on day 2. We got beat in the first round in a duel that I thought we should have won. Wrestled real flat. It was just one of those, not very fun duels. And we followed that up with the team that won our pool, and we beat them 45 to, I don't remember what the score was, but I want to say we beat them by like 20 points. And during that duel, we pulled off a lot of the wins where we weren't supposed to win, that kind of stuff. So that we were capable of winning all of the duels because that team went and beat everybody else. So, it's a learning experience. It's something that I think we can pull from for the rest of the year.
At Bo Foot, he went 5-0 at heavyweight. You had Carter Max go 6-0. Some of the highlights right there the weekend.
Yeah, and then Joseph Van Overshield also went 5-0. Mm-hmm. So those were obviously highlights. And if you look at the records after that, the majority of the kids ended up going somewhere around 500 or 2-4, something like that. So, those 3 obviously they stand out. Carter had a super weekend. Obviously going 6-0. My intent on the beginning of the weekend was for Bo and Wyatt to split matches, and then Wyatt got dinged up, so he couldn't wrestle. So Wyatt got hurt in the one match he wrestled. and then Bo wrestled the rest of them. So it was nice for him to go 5-0. You know, my intent with Joseph was for him to wrestle probably half of the matches. And then we had some injuries happen where, you know, we kept him and Tucker both in the lineup the entire time we were there. So we just kind of rolled with the punches, which is what we've been doing really well this year, and just kept battling.
Travis Carpenter with the Mitchell Wrestling joins us here, Wednesday Night Coaches Show from the Freight House Room of the Depot. Health-wise, how are things? These are not serious injuries, you just bumps and bruises. How are things right now?
We hope so. You know, obviously, you know, we won't be 100% this weekend. Just depends on what happens the next couple of days, on who's in, who's out, that kind of stuff. But you know, that's the great thing about our group this year is if somebody goes down, we have somebody else to put in, and that hasn't been the case in the past. You know, if we had somebody go down, we had to forfeit to some teams. But now, you know, it's one of those situations where somebody goes down, you put somebody else in, and you just move on to the next thing and try to find a way to win a match, win a duel, and do those types of things.
Events like the Clash, where there are dozens of teams, it is on a weekend, so college coaches may be busy. Do they get a chance, maybe assistants, to check those events out, whether it's there or any other big-time wrestling events where there's hundreds of wrestlers?
When you think about like the tournament the week prior there, which was the Minnesota Christmas tournament and the Clash, there's definitely college coaches there. You know, they have somebody there paying attention to those kids. And if you look on the other side of the bracket, there was some super good kids. Even on the teams that we wrestled, I believe there was a kid at 195 pounds in the last duel that we wrestled that's got a full ride to go to NDSU. You know, so you know, even the teams that maybe were in the last pool with us have kids that are very, very good wrestlers.
You host Pierre coming up here on Friday night, then the big tournament this weekend. Pierre, maybe not as good as they have been, but still a pretty solid opponent coming up.
Yeah, I mean, they're not head and shoulders above everybody else, but they've got a really, really nice team. They're good in every weight class. We're going to have to scratch and claw for every point that we score in that duel. And you know, obviously, I feel like we can win, you know, our share of matches. You know, are we going to win the duel? You know, a lot of things will depend on who we have in the lineup, and the coin flip will be important to make sure they present at the right weight classes.
And then you got the big tournament, times and teams coming in. What's the schedule here this weekend?
We start at 10 o'clock. We have, I told you, East Ridge out of Minneapolis or Minnesota. They're just a suburb of Minnesota. Matt Everson, who wrestled for us once upon a time, is their head coach. So that's our connection with those guys. Matt's excited about coming back. He's got a very nice team. We're looking forward to seeing them. We've got, on the A side, we've got ourselves. We've got Watertown, Rapid City, Stevens, Sturgis. Missing somebody in there. It'll come to me. On the other side, Howard, Bonhomme, Bonhomme's actually out this year. They won't be coming to our tournament, but we have Parkston, Wagner, Howard. You know, very, very, very good teams. So it'll be an interesting tournament, just like it always is. You know, we were looking at it today and thinking about, you know, where these other teams are at and where we're at, and it's going to be a dogfight to be in the top 5 in this tournament.
As far as setting the brackets and everybody else that has to help up with that, how much of a process is that getting this thing going?
Well, anytime you run a tournament, there's a process to it, but we've got great people. Doug Greenway, Jason and Justin both wrestle for us, and Corey all wrestled for us once upon a time, and Doug does a phenomenal job of running the tournament on the computer for us. We've got great people that will sit and work tables for us. You know, Mitchell Wrestling has been notorious for having great people for a lot of years, and this is no exception. It's an undertaking, don't get me wrong, but because of the great people that we have in our wrestling community, it makes it much simpler.
Again, chance to see you, Mitchell. They'll be at home here for a week or so. They host Pierre coming up Friday night at 7 o'clock, and then a tournament on Saturday. So plenty of chances for folks if they haven't seen you. Maybe one of those last chances here this next week to come out.
Yeah, to be honest with you, we go Pierre and then the Opera, and then next Thursday we have Yankton and Harrisburg at home, and that's our last home meet for the season. So if you want to get out and see us in town, those will be your last chances.
Again, check it out. Plenty of wrestling in Mitchell coming up here this weekend. Travis Carpenter, Mitchell Wrestling, joins us. We'll talk all about it next week.
All right, thank you.
Head coach Travis Carpenter here with Mitchell Wrestling. Have Mitchell boys basketball coming up next. Todd Neuendorf, as they only have one game this week. They'll be at Pierre coming up on Friday night. We'll have coverage with the pregame show at around 6:30, tip-off at 7. Talk with head coach Todd Neuendorf of Mitchell boys coming up next.
This is John Foster from The Depot. We're more than just a typical sports bar. In addition to pool and darts and sports on TV, we feature 30 beers on tap from all over the globe. Happy hour daily between 4:30 and 7:30 with extended hours on Wednesdays and Thursdays. Enjoy our new menu items, monster burgers, gourmet flatbreads, and salads, along with other soon-to-be Depot favorites. The Depot, open all day, every day, starting at 11:30 a.m.
The Mitchell Rec Center is the only place for the whole family, and memberships include the Indoor Aquatic Center with 24/7 access, full-size gyms, swimming pool, racquetball, all kinds of classes, fitness on demand, or fitness with trainers. The Mitchell Rec Center has it all. Become a member where there's something to do every day for everybody. The Mitchell Rec Center, family, fitness, fun.
You are listening to Wednesday Night Coach's Corner Show with Steve and Travis on KORN Radio FM 101.3 AM 1490 and online at KORNradio.com. This is Coach Neuendorf. Now back to the show.
Wednesday Night Coaches Show here, online only, Freight House Room of the Depot. We'll go with the West Morgan Mitchell girls basketball here. Also, Todd Neuendorf set to join us later on, and Tacey Dykstra, girls coach at Kimball White Lake. Plenty of basketball here for the next 40 minutes or so. West Morgan joins us. Another good win against Huron there. You beat them by 19 points, and first quarter was tight, but then after that seemed like shooting opened up, defense was good, and another pretty complete effort there on Saturday night.
Yeah, and I thought we came out okay, but we didn't get after them defensively in that first half, and they got to the basket a few times. They got some good looks at the hoop. Second quarter kind of got a few steals here and there, and then kind of followed through the rest of the game. But man, they got a lot of fight. They got a lot of fight in them. Huron's got a lot of fight in them. He's got them playing hard, and they took last night. They took Yankton to 3 overtimes and ended up beating them by 2. So that's a team that I think as we go forward, I just think that there's a lot of good coaching out there, and there's a lot of if you're not ready to play, boy, it could be a really hard night for you. And it's not like your kids can just get ready as the game goes. I don't think there's many teams like that out there.
And you've played Harrisburg. They're the only undefeated team left. You got Brandon Valley. You've played them. Washington, they still have one loss, and you have a couple of those West River teams. Stevens, they have it one loss. You've seen them before, and then that's where you guys kind of are. You, Brookings, you've seen Rapid City Central. So do you see maybe some separation here? You got these teams, or is it still too early for that?
Well, I think it's a little too early, and they got O'Gorman. O'Gorman's down on the list, but
they only have one loss.
They're a pretty good team. They just haven't played any of the caliber of teams yet with the win-loss records. But Harrisburg is really coming on right now. They took Brookings last night at home and beat them by 20. I think it was 28 points at home. Harrisburg's really and they got a big kid back. Anyway, they got so now they're even bigger across the line. They got 6 foot 6'1", and kids going to USD and getting recruited to Wesleyan, and I don't know what Sadie Roth, the kid that's back now, I don't know where she's going, but then they got a perimeter that can shoot the ball. So I mean, they took it to us last week, and that's a hard guard for us. We couldn't rebound. We got rebounded by 15, 20 rebounds. So a lot of good teams out there, and now we play Pierre, and as we go forward, Pierre, Lincoln, Roosevelt. There's nothing easy going forward. There's just a lot of good teams.
And they don't have the wins, but you feel like maybe you can get on a run here. We kind of talked about that Saturday at the halftime of the boys game. You have Pierre, you have Watertown, you have Roosevelt. You have a chance here to maybe pick up a lot of wins here in quick order.
Yeah, and we're and as far as the rate, I mean, that's the idea, and to work on some of the stuff that we can get better at, and I think our next step is to get consistent at what we're running and run some stuff. We put in some new things here and there, and I think the kids are excited. I think they're starting to figure some things out. We talked about our shooting, talked about how we had to get back in the gym and do some extra shooting, and I think that was just over a week ago, and I think some kids took that to heart and have gotten back in the gym. I'm seeing new life out of kids that were feeling, for lack of a better term, feeling bad for themselves. Now all of a sudden they're starting to put that time back in the gym and getting some shooting in extra, and you can tell on their shots that they've been working at it, and that's that's honestly the next step in trying to get yourself where do we want to be at the end of the year? We want to beat Pierre now, but the idea is to work at it so that we can compete with your Harrisburgs, and we play them at one more time this year, and compete with the Sioux Falls schools, Brandon Valley, such. So that's where we're at, and that's where I think we're going. We start with Pierre tomorrow night. I mean, Pierre's got a really good guard and a decent post player, but I've played Pierre when they've had a decent guard and a good post player and not much to go with them, but they put it together for one night, and you're scrambling trying to figure out how to get your kids involved in the game and get them to play.
And one game this week for the boys and the girls. Girls are at home tomorrow night. Corn Palace 7 o'clock for Pierre. We'll have that game on KORN. You've seen Huron twice, so obviously you guys know each other extremely well. They were doubling the post there with Mac Miller. You had Haley Hone out there. Where do you see that combination going when they're both out there at the same time?
I'm trying to get something set up, and I moved Peyton to a 3 when we had that lineup in there. Trying to figure out what we can do when we're playing against some taller teams where we can't get rebounds. Haley Hone's really athletic, and she can go get a rebound. That's what I'm looking at with her. Just giving us some size. There's no way we're going to have a size advantage, but maybe we can equal that up just a little bit. And we can play, and if they take their kids off the court, we can kind of move kids around and do some stuff like that. But, we got to figure out a way to compete with Harrisburg, with Brookings coming up here. I mean, they got 6'3" and 6 foot, and Harrisburg's got 3 6-footers, and we got one. So we're trying to figure out, and sometimes you think, well, it's an advantage for us on the other end, but they got a couple of the kids for Harrisburg, they got kids that are not only 6 foot, but they're athletic, and they can play with our smaller kids.
They can be inside and outside.
Yeah, exactly.
And they double team Mac Miller a lot. She ended up with a dozen points or so. She played well, but 10 3-pointers that opened up that outside shot. And Peyton hit some late, and Tess had like 5 steals, didn't have her 10 15, but she contributed defensively, and just seemed like if they're going to double team her, that just leaves everybody else on the outside.
So and Max, we're working on getting that the kicker crossed or finding the open kid when they're going to double her, and we did a decent job of that. She found the kids that were open. Now we got to have her feet ready and knock down shots. We did a pretty good job of getting to the basket, and we did I thought it's the best we've ran our offense, and spacing was a huge thing. I've talked to the girls a ton about spacing, and this is a fun offense to run because we got some shooters. But if you're not spaced right, it doesn't work. So you got to have those 2 kids on the baseline. You got to have a couple high, and because you're back cutting and you're going and setting the post sets of screens, and you're just trying to keep kids involved, and as we go, keep kids involved and try to make plays. And I'm getting better and more comfortable with finding plays out of this to get kids that I feel are ready to, maybe made a shot. We can get a second shot out of them. The problem with what we're running is that if you don't have if you don't get into a rhythm and the passing and the cutting and all that stuff, if it's a one pass and crank it, you don't ever get any rhythm, and that's what we've had. Quite honestly, we played Brandon Valley and we played Harrisburg. We're just looking for an open shot, and instead of trying to get a really, really good shot, so hopefully the way we've changed a little bit of our defense, and like you're saying, got to go to MAC, got to find the outside, and we got to find that happy medium where we can not be on our heels the whole game and try to compete that way.
Are you surprised that teams still double, even though you've been pretty successful shooting from the outside? It's basically pick your poison with MAC down low.
It is a little bit pick your poison, but with Huron, I mean, MAC's been pretty dominant when we played them, and they got to figure a way to, they'd rather give up a 3 than
take their chances that way.
Yeah, I mean, because the percentage is just working into the favor of the taking away that layup. But yeah, I mean, I'm not counting my chickens. I mean, these kids have put some time in, and I'm not.
You feel comfortable with them choosing that option, and they can.
Well, and I'd rather have sometimes, like I've talked to a couple of the girls this last week in practice. I'd rather have you take the shot than put it on the floor, because your shot's what you're used to shooting. Now we don't put it on the floor and then pull up as much, although some of them can do that, or some of them can attack the hoop off the dribble. But sometimes we get kids that are trying to reinvent the wheel, and they've never done it, and all of a sudden we're out of character. Instead of shooting the 3, which they were open at, they're trying to put it on the floor and attack the hoop, and they're just not comfortable doing it.
Do they feel more comfortable running set plays, or just kind of in a wide open offense, maybe when they're in transition, or things are up to them?
I think they're really good. I think our best offense is transition offense and finding the open kid and letting it fly. I think that's been where we've shined the best. Our half court offense, we're still probably another 5-6 games away from really knowing this offense pretty well. And I say that saying that in practice, we get what we get in practice, and we pretty much get that all the time. But when you get into games and that's taken away, there's other things. So our best practice is a game. Our best practice is, okay, what are they giving us here? What can we expose and what can we get out of it? And I continually think that if we can continue playing hard and learning how to play faster and getting in the half-court game and getting some structure as far as passing, cut, and running our play, I think it works to our favor.
Head coach Wes Morgan. Mitchell girls are 4-3 on the season, one of those top 8 seeds right now. Defeated Huron on Saturday by 19. They host Pierre on Thursday. Then they head to Lincoln coming up a Tuesday of next week. Coach, thanks for coming down, and we'll see you next week.
Okay, thank you.
Head coach Wes Morgan joins us. Todd Neuendorf with the boys. He's coming up next. Wednesday night coaches show live from the Freight House room of the Depot.
The Mitchell Rec Center is the only place for the whole family, and memberships include the Indoor Aquatic Center with 24/7 access, full-size gyms, swimming pool, racquetball, all kinds of classes, fitness on demand, or fitness with trainers. The Mitchell Rec Center has it all. Become a member where there's something to do every day for everybody. The Mitchell Rec Center, family, fitness, fun.
This is John Foster from The Depot. We're more than just a typical sports bar. In addition to sports and sports on TV, we feature 30 beers on tap from all over the globe. Happy hour daily between 4:30 and 7:30 with extended hours on Wednesdays and Thursdays. Enjoy our new menu items, monster burgers, gourmet flatbreads, and salads, along with other soon-to-be Depot favorites. The Depot, open all day, every day, starting at 11:30 a.m.
You're listening to the Wednesday Night Coach's Corner with Steve and Travis on KRN News Radio, FM 101.3 and AM 1490, online at KRNradio.com. This is Coach Morgan. Now back to the show.
Halfway done here, Wednesday Night Coach's Show. Todd Neuendorf joins us. Also have Casey Dykstra with Kimball White Lake girls basketball. Final 2 guests here tonight. Coach, again, the Huron game, it was that second quarter again, close throughout, but you got a couple days to digest what happened in Huron. Any other new thoughts or anything that stick out besides that second quarter?
No, we looked at the film and we second quarter again, but I'm wondering, or we're wondering if we aren't giving our guys enough of a break in that first quarter, and we're running them a little too thin in the second quarter, and so we're gonna try to give those guys a little bit of a a break a little earlier in that first quarter and break them. And, that's the only thing we can think of. We're running the same stuff in the first quarter as we are in the third quarter, and we come out in third quarter and we're okay. And, second quarter, I don't know. It's kind of been, other than the first game of the year when the Nerves were playing, that second quarter has been the one that's hurt us. And so that's kind of where we're at. And we've had a good week of practice and, get ready for a peer team on Friday night.
It was a good start there. You got on a roll. You got down early. Then you had a 5-6 point lead at the end of that first quarter. When things get rolling, is that what we saw in that first quarter? Is that kind of what you're looking at?
Well, it is. But, we the other thing is we went about 7-8 possessions on the film without going to the rim, and we settled for shots, jump shots. So that happened in that stretch too, where you're not scoring the basketball. When you're not scoring the basketball, you got to get to the rim and get yourself to the free throw line or something, get something easy. And instead of doing that, we settled for jump shots and kind of bailed them out. So that being said, those are two definite areas that we're concerned about, and getting those kids maybe a little break earlier in the game, and then coming back and getting something going to the rim instead of settling for shots.
Keel Nelson looked like he was fairly aggressive. He had a nice game offensively. You had Carter and Caden didn't have their usual 15 points that they've been accustomed to, but Keel was a little bit more aggressive. Is that kind of what you like to see from him? He went to the foul line a few times as well. How would you assess his performance there on Saturday?
Yeah, he did it. He attacked the rim a little bit, and he got us some stuff going to the rim, and we scored some points that way. And that's what we need from him. What we really need also is we need him to crash the boards. We need some offensive putbacks and maybe get some other guys to boards. If you watch when a shot goes up, we got a lot of guys bailing, and we got to get to the offensive glass and give ourselves second and third opportunities.
And looking at that bench, Derek Factor, did he kind of provided a bit of a spark there when he came off the bench initially?
Yeah, Derek's doing a good job. He's a good kid. He's a good player, and he was just really kind of amped up as in a starting role, and we were noticing that. So, we moved him to coming off the bench, not a demotion by any means, just trying to put him in a spot where he can be successful. And I think that's working out for him. I think he's playing better. He seems more calm, and he gets in the middle of the flow and does a nice job of leading our second unit when they come out.
Todd Neuendorf joined us. Mitchell boys, they do have a Pier coming up on Friday night. That is at Pier. Only game of the week. You had Caden Hinker, you got Zane Alm, two big guys down low. Playing them together, is that anything possible there? You got Hinker on the outside, Zane in the middle. Is that a possibility, or do you look at that as matchup problems for either side?
Well, to be honest with you, we will play.
And they're fairly young too. So.
Yeah, we will play those guys together, but we won't have a lineup of Keel and two of those guys together. It's kind of a nightmare for us to guard on the other end that way. If those two are in, and they will be in, a kid like Hunter Staley is going to get a little more time. Hunter's been working, so you're going to see him out on the floor, and he can shoot it, and so we will have Zane and Hank out there together. Hank will be on the outside, and Zane will be on the inside. But we won't have, like I said, we won't have three of those bigs out there together.
You look at some of those box scores from those sub-varsity games with Zane putting up, 30 and 10, 27 and 10. How dominant has he been in those junior varsity games?
That's a good thing for him. He's come a long way. We were just talking about that tonight. He's come a long ways, even from the beginning of the year. He's come a long ways. And the one thing that sticks out in the varsity game is, he's going to have to get stronger, and he holds himself pretty well in that sophomore and JV game. But you get in the varsity game, now this weekend when, we'll play, a tight end will be playing down there and an offensive lineman down there in the post and a 6'5" kid and a 6'2" kid and big, strong kids. And that'll be a stretch for him, but he's young, and we just got to get him a little bigger. And as he gets bigger, his skill set's really good. He's got good hands, and he can score the basketball. We just got to get him a little stronger, but that comes with age also.
Pierre on Friday night, you beat them last year. You played them very close. The game at Pierre earlier on in that season. No Peyton Zabel this year, but it sounds like they've got good size. How are they different without Peyton?
Well, they don't have the guy out front that's just going to score a ton of points. What they're doing is everything is a pass to the post. I mean, everything is they're running sets to bring one of the posts out, and they dump down to the other one. And it's going to be, last year they played one of them at a time. They didn't play them both. This year they're playing them both at a time. So Kiel will have one, and Hanker will have the other one. And then when we come with Zane, Zane will have one, so they pose a little problem that way. They're big, strong kids. They crash the boards hard, and we're not necessarily worried about their first shot, but sometimes they get the second and third shot also.
Playing with foul trouble, I think like Carter did that well in the second half against Huron, and Caden, I don't think he picked up his fifth foul there at the end. How did they play with that foul trouble in that second half?
Well, they're pretty smart about that. They, they played hard and got in it. It was a tough game for them to try to figure out how to play. It was at one time there was a lot of contact, and the next time there wasn't much contact and it was a foul. So
there were a lot of whistles in a short period of time, and then there'd be 5 minutes with no whistles.
Yeah, and the kids were like, and they'd come over to the bench. I didn't have an answer for them because usually you can figure out how the game's going to be called and you can adjust, but it was hard to do that. But they did a really nice job, and just that's what young kids got to do. And you could see that Huron took it to us. And they took it right to us in the middle of the chest. There's a couple times when they drove baseline right in front of our bench. The Tegan Evers drove right in the middle, and Derek was guarding him, and Tegan just went right through Derek and went to the rim. And they were just stronger than us, and that caused us some trouble there. But for the most part, our kids did a nice job.
So you got Pierre coming up Friday night, again, 7 o'clock tip-off. We'll have coverage of that one. And then you come back to the Corn Palace Tuesday, 7 o'clock. You host #1 team in the state, Lincoln. They have not lost yet, only undefeated team. How much time have you spent looking at Lincoln so far?
Zero
time.
We're looking at Pierre. We've watched 3 games of Pierre, and we're taking them one at a time. And, we have focused everything on Pierre, and that's kind of the way we've always done it. We just take, the game that comes up first and deal with it. And, we need to go to Pierre and play really well. It's tough to play in Pierre. Pierre's a tough place to play, and kind of one of those old throwback gyms where it's, got a little nostalgia to it. And they'll have a good crowd, and it'll get loud in there. So, trying to get our guys ready for that. And like you say, you come back and play Lincoln, the only team that's beat Yankton. And I don't know if people saw the score last night, but, Yankton
Huron, you played Huron well, and they've gone on, and, that Yankton game last night, and Moore's put up pretty much 75% of their points.
Yeah, and Tegan Evers put up 31 of the 60 for Huron, So, you see bits and pieces. We got to put together a whole game. If we can put together a whole game, that'll make us feel a little better and see where we're at. And we'll have our work cut out for us, but we'll be ready to go Friday night.
Again, you look at the standings. You're about halfway through. You look at the PowerPoints. You're 0-7, but you're 13th.
Well,
and that's just the schedule that you've played.
That's a little
misleading, but
it is. Well, it's a little crazy because you get teams that got 2 wins down below you, a couple teams with 2 wins, and it tells you the level of the competition. So you got to keep everything in perspective a little bit. And now we got some games coming that we need to win. These are teams below us, and we need to go beat these teams and get ourselves in a position to stay up there, to move ourselves up and get in that mix a little bit. That's the goal. Get yourself in that mix and give yourself just an opportunity to play in that postseason game.
Is there a chance that the schedules could become more even for those West River schools? Because they play, 8 of them against Class A schools. Just looking back, 5-6 years ago, they were playing 16 games against double A's. I don't know what's changed here with conferences and things in the past 5 years, but that kind of tips things one way or the other.
Well, and you got Spearfish and you've got Douglas, and they're going to play in that Black Hills Conference. So Spearfish and Douglas play St. Thomas More. They play Belfouche. They play, they're playing those teams. And that's what the state, if that was the thought process, was if we're going to go to this format that we're in right now, the 16 format, that everybody should have to play everybody to make it fair. And the West River schools are refusing to do that. They said, no, we're going to play our conference. Well, you see what's happening now. They're playing their conference, and they do have the deduct in the points, and it's costing them, those games. So, hopefully we can get to the point where everybody plays everybody. And I think that's the only fair way to shake this thing out. But, you look at teams where you look at a team like Douglas, we don't play Douglas this year, but, so we play Sioux Falls Lincoln, and Pierre plays Douglas.
That's a bit of a difference.
There's a bit of a difference there. So, when you're looking for to get the balance in this thing, you got to look at it all the way around, and everybody should have to do the same thing, because it's not the same all the way around.
There you go. Head coach Todd Neuendorf at Pierre coming up Friday night. Then they'll be back at the Corn Palace Tuesday to take on the number 1 team in the state, Lincoln, at 7 o'clock. Coach, we'll see you next week.
All right. Thank you, guys.
Head coach Todd Neuendorf. Joining us also Tacey Dykstra. She'll be up next. Kimball White Lake girls basketball, as we wrap up the Coaches Show here on a Wednesday night on KORN.
This is John Foster from The Depot. We're more than just a typical sports bar. In addition to pool and darts and sports on TV, we feature 30 beers on tap from all over the globe. Happy hour daily between 4:30 and 7:30 with extended hours on Wednesdays and Thursdays. Enjoy our new menu items, monster burgers, gourmet flatbreads, and salads, along with other soon-to-be Depot favorites. The Depot, open all day, every day, starting at 11:30 a.m.
You are listening to the Wednesday Night Coaches Corner with Stephen Travis on AM 1490 KORN and online at 1490KORN.com. This is Coach Wilbur of Dakota Wesleyan Basketball. Now back to the show.
Wrapping up the Wednesday Night Coaches Show here on KORNradio.com. Tacey Dykstra from Kimball White Lake girls basketball joins us. Thanks for making the trip here. Season thus far, decent record there. Kind of what's been the theme of the season thus far for you guys?
We have quite a few returners, actually. We lost 2 seniors last year, but we're still young. A lot of our young kids really stepped up into leadership roles last year. We opened up our season 4-0. We came off Christmas break. We had a triple overtime win over Chamberlain. Lost to Canastota in the Parkston Classic by 5, and then we've kind of been struggling lately, but we're playing close and we're playing hard. So it's some of those close games that are going to start falling our direction.
Take us back to that Chamberlain game, triple overtime. How did things kind of unfold there at the end of regulation and 1-2 overtimes?
That triple overtime game, well, it's kind of one of those games that you'll never forget. Mm-hmm. We were honestly down, and then we tied it up to go to the first overtime. The second overtime, same thing. We were kind of trading baskets back and forth. We got down by 3 or 4. Some things went our way. We got fouled. We hit a couple buckets. They turned it over. And then, honestly, at the end of the third overtime, we were down by 3. And with 10 seconds left, we hit a three-pointer, made the three-pointer.
You're expecting to go to a fourth overtime.
And got fouled on the shot.
Oh, wow.
So we had a 4-point play to put us ahead in that game. It was. And, the kid that did that her name was Ellie Overweg, and she maybe played 2 minutes the whole entire game.
Oh, wow.
Came off the bench and ice in her veins and knocked all that down. So very, very exciting, especially Chamberlain's kind of a rival for us over there. So packed gym. You got to love those games.
3 overtime victory there back on December 18th at Chamberlain. Region, pretty tough. Trip Delmont Armor 6-1. Corsica Stickney at 8-0. You guys are still there at 5-3. How do you size up the region? Got 2 pretty good teams at the top.
We do. We played Trip Delmont Armor on Saturday, and we lost to them by more than we should have, but we had a terrible first quarter. We were down 21-5 after the first quarter, and then when I went through stats and you look through everything, we scored, honestly, pretty similar to them to the other 3 quarters. So if we show up and play a full, complete game, that game's probably a different story for us. Corsica Stickney, they have more athletic ability than, a lot of other teams in the state right now. They just, all those young kids that were 7th and 8th graders are now sophomores, juniors, and whatnot, and everything's really clicking really good for them right now.
When you go on these offensive droughts, what are you kind of looking at as far as the reasons why?
For us, we are one of those teams where we are really hot or we are really cold, and most of our scoring droughts are, we're wide open and we just can't knock shots down, or either that or we're trying to make too much happening and bringing up some turnovers. But we've been consistent this year. We've had some highs and some lows, but it's one of the season is a roller coaster, but you hope that you hit your plateau here pretty soon and keep peaking.
Sanborn Central Woonsocket last night, was it that third quarter? That was kind of that one quarter last night?
It was. We were ahead until a couple minutes left of the third quarter, and when you have some young kids, they have a hard time when they make a couple mistakes. They have a hard time forgetting them. Sanborn Central Woonsocket, the Poyer girl, she's 6 foot and she's got arms for days. She kind of snuck up on us and got a couple steals for some quick, baskets, and we didn't handle it very well. We couldn't recover from it.
Stacy Dykstra joins us here. Kimball White Lake girls basketball. They're 5-3 on the season. You were in Parkston, some weather delays in Parkston there, that big storm at the end of the year. Go up to Madison here coming up this weekend. What's kind of your philosophies going to those classics, maybe seeing teams that you don't get to see all the time, kind of mix things up a little bit?
I really like those classics. You get to play some different competition. Saturday we go up to Madison for the Dakota State Classic, and we play Little Wound. I don't know a whole lot about them. I've been watching some film on them, and they have a lot of things going on. They've got a couple decent players, but same thing, even though Canastota doesn't seem that far away from us, it's a team that's not regularly on our schedule. It just, it's nice to see how you match up with other teams across the state. You can usually pick how you fare against your region teams and the local teams. So it is really nice to kind of get out of that back box and see where you compare to around the state.
When you see those teams that you never see and then you're preparing for them, is there a lot of adjustments? First quarter, second quarter, you get to see what they like to do. Then maybe second half, there's a whole new game plan?
I like to think that when we go into games, I'm pretty prepared. I'm one of those coaches that watches film and I map out plays and personnel and, traits, character traits and some of those things. But, just as the same as any game, even though teams have tendencies, doesn't mean they're always going to be that way. So, our kids are pretty adaptable. I've got a couple athletic kids, and, I've got a bunch of kids that really work hard and they really sacrifice themselves, for the betterment of the team.
Coaches this year helping you out?
I have my assistant coach is Tia DeGeest. She's been with me for 5 or 6 years. And then we got a new junior high coach this year. His name is David Shelsky. He's a military guy.
Oh boy.
So, he's got a voice. I have a loud voice, but he's got a voice that I think outrings me at the same time. But both of them add a lot of perspective to different things. And it's nice to have coaches that will give you some input.
Having that different voice, just different input, how does that change things or freshen things up for you?
It doesn't really change too much. I'm kind of stubborn the way it is. So a lot of times I think that I know the best way to do or handle some situations, but they have both stepped in at times and kind of given an outside perspective on things. Even when kids come off the floor, it's nice that they kind of take them aside and, give a few words of encouragement or, help them decide what they need to fix before they go back out there. It's just nice having that reassurance.
Games in Kimball, games in White Lake going well, just kind of whatever the schedule shows up. Is there any rhyme or reason to what is what?
Nope, we actually split half and half. So I think we got 10 home games this year. So we always try to put 5 in Kimball and 5 in White Lake. Even with practices, I always tell the girls that, we don't have that one true home court. We have 2 true home courts. So I feel like that helps us just because we are changing locations. But everything we do is split 50-50 when it comes to practices as well. Camden Miller and I, we go ahead and we make a schedule at the beginning of the year and we determine, based on what our game schedule is, who's practicing in what gym on what day.
And as far as the rest of your schedule, again, you got Ethan coming up. You do host them. You got, of course, Stickney again. You'll be at the Corn Palace to wrap up the regular season at Hanson. Are you hoping, like you said, peaking at the right time? You still got about a month to go is all. I mean, season's kind of gone by fast.
The season has gone really fast. I feel like just yesterday it was December, and we were just starting with 3-hour practices, making sure that we had everything in, and we play a tough schedule, and I'm glad that we play a tough schedule. To me, you don't want to play those teams that you're going to beat by 20 every night because it's not showcasing all your talents and it's not pushing you to get better as well. So I'm honestly thankful, that we have these tough teams on our schedule. You know, some of them might turn out to be losses, but ultimately they're going to make us a better team.
And playing at the Corn Palace, you've had some good memories there in the past. Is that always special, whether it's a district, a region, or just a regular season game?
You know, I was lucky enough to play in the Corn Palace for my college career, and we still, Jason holds alumni basketball games, and all of the girls that I played with, we always got to come back for alumni basketball. Granted, our bodies and don't do what we tell them to do anymore.
Your mind is here and your body somewhere else.
It just won't do what my brain's telling it to do anymore. But I think the kids really enjoy it. You know, it's one of those kind of, Mitchell's a basketball town. It's a basketball community. And when you step into the Corn Palace, you know, you step on that floor, it just kind of makes you feel all warm and fuzzy inside. So the kids really enjoy it. I'm glad that we get to play a game in the Corn Palace. You know, they take a lot of pride in that game.
With Dakota Wesleyan and their national championship, that's awesome. But
It is awesome.
But then you look at their roster and you've got Class B girls, Class A girls.
They are.
How great is that to see them do what they're doing?
That's great. And, you know, even back when I was in school, we were a bunch of Burke and Alexandria. Yep. You know, we had Randy Morgan, who was from Mitchell, but we were all a bunch of B schoolers. And I think, you know, it's great because it's showcasing that there is a lot of talent around the state and they are capable of awesome things.
Head coach Tacey Dykstra, Kimball White Lake girls are 5-3 on the season. Again, they'll be up in Madison coming up for that Dakota State Classic this weekend. Then you have Gregory coming up here tomorrow. So good luck here the rest of the way.
Thank you very much.
And you'll be sticking around talking to the quarterback club?
I guess.
There we go.
Thank you.
Tacey Dykstra joins us here, Kimball White Lake girls basketball. Also, West Morgan and Todd Neuendorf again. Mitchell boys, they will be at Pier 7 o'clock on a Friday night, and the girls will be at the Corn Palace coming up tomorrow night against Pier. So Pier, the teams this week, girls at home tomorrow, boys on the road there at Pier. Steve Morgan will have both games on KORN News Radio. Also, thanks to Camden Miller, who joined us earlier in the show, and Travis Carpenter with Mitchell Wrestling. Again, we'll have plenty of coverage coming up this weekend on Q1073. It's the 36th annual Hanson Girls Corn Palace Classic. 9 games. Starts at 9 o'clock, wraps up with the final game at 9 o'clock at night. Admission, again, only $10 for adults, $5 for students. It's good for all day. You will get your money's worth. Another great lineup's been put on here by Hanson, as we're going to bring you 4 games on Q1073. The 10:30 game between Hanson and Sully Buttes. Also the noon game between Trip Delmont Armor and Irene Wakanda. 2 late games we're going to bring you as well. Corsica Stickney and DeSmit at 6 o'clock. And then we'll bring you the 9 o'clock game between Ethan and Warner. Ethan, number 1 team in Class B girls this season. And that middle game, we're not going to have coverage of this one, but if you're going to be there, you want to check out the 7:30 game between Lennox and St. Thomas More, 2 of the best teams in Class A basketball. So plenty of basketball coming up at the Corn Palace. Always a good time with the Girls Corn Palace Classic, the 36th annual, 9 games over the entire day on Saturday, starting at 9 o'clock with Avon versus Waubay Summit. And then they wrap it up, Ethan versus Warner, 9 o'clock on Saturday night. Thanks to all the coaches. We'll be back coming up on the radio. Again, SDSU girls basketball going on tonight, so you can check that out on KORN News Radio. And Steve Morgan, he should be back coming up here next week as well. Travis Crins wishing you a good night from the Freight House room of the Depot. You've been listening to the Wednesday Night Coaches Show here on KORNradio.com.